Truth Seeker and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the Truth Seeker podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark Savage!
Streaming live at truthseeker.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, Truth Seeker.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Truth Seeker. This is the Truth Seeker podcast. I'm excited and delighted to be with you guys again, week to week, day to day, however often I do these things. I love it. I enjoy it. And you guys are enjoying it too. The numbers are increasing on the podcast back end on iTunes and Libsyn and all the media outlets that this podcast goes out to. I'm getting messages daily, and I know I sound redundant. I know I'm repeating myself, but something's working. Like the guests that I'm having on here, being open and transparent with people about our own experiences, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to feel a certain type of way. And like at the end of the day, nobody's right. Like nobody has like this is the one way to do it. If you don't follow it this way, then you're doing it wrong. So we're essentially just bringing our experiences together, bringing the information as a collective, and we're forming a community here, and it's resonating with a lot of people. So thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you guys for coming aboard, all the new listeners that we have, so many of you guys. I'll do an interview ever so often, and usually with a bigger name person. Like every time I do an interview with Jordan Maxwell, I logged into my YouTube account, and the view counter is going straight up. It shows a graph going up and down, and you got a couple views today, a little bit of views tomorrow. But then I did the Jordan Maxwell one, and then it goes straight up, just skyrocketing, and it got a bunch of subscribers for reaching out to his crowd as well. So welcome. You guys found something that you like, something that you resonated with. Welcome aboard, man. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the fold. It's good to have you. If you guys want to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeeker. There you get access to unreleased podcast. You get all my music. I'm a rapper. I do hip hop music. Again, I'm getting a lot of comments, especially doing the Jordan Maxwell thing, because there's so many people watching my videos. A lot of people commenting on the way that I talk. And so, yeah, I'm a hip hop artist. I'm a rapper. Check out my music, patreon.com/TruthSeeker. There you get access to my entire discography, as well as all the new music that I'm putting out. Is being uploaded directly to the Patreon. So you guys are awesome. You guys mean the world to me. Give a quick shout out to some of the new patrons we have this month so far. Within the last week, we have today Sari Ramos, thank you for coming aboard. Danny Guerrero, Edgar Romero, Hernan Posada, Justin Caldwell, and everybody else, man. Thank you guys for coming aboard. Let's see. It's kind of weird how these names are fluctuating. Lillian Alanda, you've been hanging out with us. Jonathan Baina, man, thank you guys for coming on. I swear, it means the world to me that you guys are resonating with my work and that you want to support what I'm doing. Thank you. Patreon.com/TruthSeeker. Also, when you support there, you get access to what we're starting this week is the School of the Mystics. We're going to be doing an online school, pretty much just a teaching and equipping session of being there for one another, learning how to activate the prophetic activation, moving in the spirit, and just simply a community just to be there with one another, making myself available, being candid and open in a way that we really can't do on a large scale on a podcast. So there's just so many people listen to the podcast, and it's almost like church for you guys. Like, you guys look forward to it every week. I've gotten the messages, and this is going to be a hands-on way that we kind of fellowship together and kind of grow in the spirit. School of the Mystics, 7 p.m. Central, Thursday nights. Get access by becoming a patron. All right, all of that stuff's out the way. I said a mouthful. I got an awesome show planned for you guys tonight. I'm excited. I've been checking out her work for a minute now. Her name's all over the place. Anytime you type in anything about ufology, anything about star children, star seeds, indigo children, all of this beautiful stuff, you see her name out there. So it's cool that we're finally getting to connect, and this is going to be an organic conversation. We haven't really spoken before, but Bridget Nielsen, welcome to the True Seeker Podcast.
Aw, thanks so much, Derek. I'm really happy to be a part of this, everything that you're building and creating. It was fun hearing about everything.
It's awesome connecting our fan bases together. Like, I've built this platform on just for years. It came overnight, but I've built it for years, networking with people. And not being afraid to share the platform, or it's no longer us four and no more. Like, hey, I have to protect my followers because in some circles they're my investors. They believe in me. They support me. Those type of things. And you find that a lot when it comes to teachers and speakers and people who have communities. But I've seen so much growth and so many people coming together through networking. What would you say about that?
I completely agree. It's like there's always something new that we all have for each other, and like mixing the communities is the only way to really like expand. So this like exclusivity doesn't really promote and go towards what we're actually wanting to do. So I'm totally a fan of that.
That's one thing that it always turns me off to when I see those people who are just like, hey, don't listen to this person, even if I don't agree with the work. This has just been something that's kind of come up over the years. But even if I don't agree with the work, at this point, I'll just try to point out the good that they're doing versus, hey, stay away from him. He believes this. He's into this type of deal. But I find that a lot with a lot of big name teachers and stuff. But I think that what we're doing in the grassroots is working. I mean, we see a lot of people coming together, a lot of people doing interviews on their own channel, spotlighting other people's work. I was just on Project Camelot. Carrie Cassidy had me on there. That was a huge blessing.
Awesome.
But to see, to see her reach out to someone like me, it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
Well, someone like you is great. Like, that's the point. Is it's like the valuation right now is via like how big is your following, and that's like not a proper. It's not actually accurate, because there's so many other things that go into what creates the size of the following and just algorithmically. So to social evaluate based on that doesn't work. And so I think that it's really good to keep that conversation open, that everyone has something to give, no matter big or small,
Yeah, it's awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. There's people watching who have no idea who you are. They haven't heard your story. They're new to your presence. Talk a little bit about what you do and why you do it.
Ooh, it's kind of fun. I'm like new. I'm like, hello. I am a person who, let's see, where do I even start? I'm just I guess you could say like a starseed, someone who's more empathetic, sensitive. And I've remembered a lot of my incarnations from other planets, from other times on Earth, et cetera, et cetera. And I just remember a lot of my greater being. And that has just funneled its way into just being one of the foremost things that then I share about on how to do that, but also like what is going on in the world right now, especially pertaining to ETs and star connections, but really across all boards. So that's a general answer as to who am I.
It's always hard, especially when people ask about your story. How'd you get into this? Those type of things. It's like which part do I share? Like, do I go back from the beginning and say, because all of it kind of plays a part, like which part do I share? Do I share about the Star Children? Do I share about the contact? Do I share about summoning UFOs, or my interest in music? And, I think in your case, art and food and all of these things that you're creating and bringing to the table as well. It's not just one thing that I'm known for. You have all of these things, So when it comes to, I guess, maybe the supernatural or dealing with ETs and stuff like that, like, what was your earliest experiences that you remember as a kid? Like, what were some of the things that were going on in your life, if anything?
Right. So when I was a kid, there was a lot of kind of missing time, strange situations, but nothing too much that alluded to it at the time. There were strange things more when I was a teenager, of I was like, something's going on here. But once I did a regression, I guess that's like 7 years ago or something now, I remembered all that was going on when I was a kid, which was being on spaceships, being taken by different extraterrestrial groups for different things, different programs, which was amazing. And I actually really enjoyed it when I was a kid. And it could be various different things, me playing with other kids on spaceships, doing kind of telekinetic, telepathic kind of game stuff, or it could be just me as a part of the overall system of what these different ETs were doing to help remind me and teach me. So it was very interactive.
So in your waking life and like your day to day, did you remember any of this at all? Or was this kind of through the regression, like this whole new arena just kind of just exploded? And you're like, wow, I've been living 2 lives almost, Through
the regression, really, yeah, everything came out. But there were clues when I was a teenager. Like, I thought that I was pregnant like all the time, but I had never even had sex yet, and stuff like that had like kept on coming up. And so it was very strange. And even when I just started getting into my spiritual journey a few years before the regression and all of the ET stuff started coming up, I haven't shared this actually. It just came up with a friend yesterday and I remembered, but I was doing shamanic regressions to meet my ancestors because I was doing a lot of ancestral work. And one of them that I went to meet my female ancestry, I didn't have very many, I wasn't online searching alien stuff or anything. Mm-hmm. I was very clean in the category. And I regressed, I guess I self-regressed myself in the shamanic journey back to actually remembering I ended up at this crystal palace with these aliens, and they were all women, and they were healing me on this table, and it was so foreign and weird. As I was in it, I was like, these are my ancestors? I'm like, what is this? I didn't even understand, but it was new and it was kind of cool. And so I came out of that and I was like, that was just weird. I don't even know what that was. And it went on and it was really powerful and deep for, a good half hour or something. And so that was actually the first experience that I just realized that I had.
It's weird moving around in some of those hypnotic states, whether it's going into Kundalini yoga or some deep meditation or psychedelics for that matter. But you always get these weird glimpses. I think for me, just a lot of times when I was a little kid, when I was sick, when I get the flu or have a fever, I would always go back to these weird memories that were just so foreign, and it was something that it would actually ignite them. And it happened again recently, and I can't pinpoint it. I don't know exactly what was going on, but it's this weird place that you go to where everything's a little bit slippery. A lot of times when you're in those states, you're getting a lot of pieces and glimpses of just a minute, or a revelation will come to you and then it's gone, and then another one, and then you're trying to hold on to whatever you can. So, and I'm sure you said when you was a kid you had little glimpses of stuff like that, and little times where it was just a loss in time and things. But so the regression, that's a pivotal thing that you would I guess recommend to a lot of people who are wanting to get into this type of field, or wanting to know who they are, where they come from, life purpose and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think you just keyed in on them, the different ways of entry, right? Entry into the remembrance. And it's okay, is psychedelics your path? Is just like going into deep states of trance, whether it's through shamanic journeying, sober, or like you said, Kundalini yoga, like meditation, those kinds of things. You can definitely get there. I've gotten there. Or just a deep regression. So it's kind of like which feels resonant. Because I think, well, obviously psychedelics will get you there really fast and you have no control over it. But I think it could be any of them. It just is which one draws you. And the regression thing can work for people. Absolutely. And it cannot. Like some of the time it's just like, was that my mind? I don't know. I didn't go that deep. So it depends on like if you're someone that can go into a trance pretty deeply and quickly, like I'm able to, then it's good. But if you're a person that's like, you don't remember your dreams and it's kind of hard.
It's going to take time.
Yeah. It's like, maybe you need something a little bit more potent.
So what was, what are some of the experiences, I guess maybe some of the earlier ones? I know because there's a lot of this stuff you're talking about and many people have resonated with it. They've experienced it. There's stuff that I can't even explain. I'm teaching this stuff and I can't even explain a lot of it, right? It's part of it. It's okay to say, I don't know, right?
Right.
So what were some of the things that you've experienced, whether it was as a kid or even now that you know something is going on, that maybe when the other side kind of crosses over into the physical reality, whether it's, I know you've been to a lot of UFO conferences and you've been speaking a lot as well. Have you been to any of these events where you go out and you make a CE5 contact, or you have some life-changing encounter and meditation and a being appears or something like that? Was there any of those experiences that like it crossed over into this realm, you know?
Right. That's a good question. Yes. In some of them, like one example that for some reason it stands out to me more than anything is I was camping alone in Utah in the middle of nowhere, which people tell me not to do, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I actually was woken up in the night and I was fully awake and I was levitated through my tent, like up to a ship. So I was like fully consciously awake, fully levitated, like up to a ship. And that was really cool and profound. But as far as like connecting with beings and stuff, I mean, there's certain times where we have like retreats and where we're all in the same proximity. So it's kind of like a conference, I guess would be, but there's certain retreats or certain times where I've lived in community where it was like unanimously, everyone woke up the next day and was like, what just happened? And that we remember being like on the ship together, like some stuff like that happens. But as far as like meeting them in the flesh in person, I've had a mantis appear to me in the corner of my room and materialize. As far as any other materialization, there was this slippery in between that was pretty much like a DMT journey, but it entered into this reality where I fully saw contact, like how first contact is going to take place. And that was extraordinary and changed me forever. So not as many as like the full physical meetings, but very slippery in between realities.
What about the ships? Have you had encounters with them? You know what I'm saying? Stargazing, out there camping. I don't know if you've ever, done the CE5 initiatives or anything like that. Have you had any of those encounters with stargazing?
Yeah, I have. Well, one of them, I was walking down the street and like I saw a ship and then I had like missing time. And so stuff happened to me in that case. And that was just broad daylight. But because I lived in Sedona for so long, which is just like this nice ET dimensional gate. There were sightings like all the time. And people would be like, oh, what's all on the backyard? And everyone like would run out there and like see the zipping and different things and the flashing happening. For me, for some reason, it doesn't, my experiences come in a different way. And it's I don't know, it's entering into this realm in a different fashion, like not as much as a ship, but it's entering in and like, okay, you better be ready because you're just going to shift realities. So it has a different language and feel to it in the way that I experience.
But but the effects of it cross over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when you are in tune, you start seeing stuff manifest, or crazy synchronicities, or almost like you feel like you're being led by a higher power. Like all the relationships, emails, like everything just lines up. Everything that's on the television, like you're being led by higher power. Talk a little bit about that. Like with the contact, I believe, like, you know, these synchronicities come, and people seeing 333 and 1111, you know what I'm saying, representing awakening and angelic contact and things like that. Talk a little bit about how the synchronicities are kind of linked in with contact.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, I guess the synchronicities are really like validation that all of this non-physical magic is truly happening. Like, I think that's really what it is, because there's moments where you might be interfacing with some interdimensional being, which is what happens a lot. And you might be like feeling like this energy and like what's happening, or like certain activations, but it's harder to believe that. But then when you see like an 1111, or like this person said the thing that you were thinking about, or, you know, like it just starts to sink. And I think that shows the creative potential that we have as being like creators of our reality too. So it's not only is it like this validation of this greater thing happening, but I think our creation part in it, and that we are like our reality creating it.
Yeah, when we're seeing these signs or these dreams or whatever stuff starting to make sense, or whether we pull something out of the dream state and it manifests here, I mean, there's so many stuff that happens, or you follow the signs in the dream or whatever. And even for me, like having a lot of sightings or whatever, I started writing down every sighting that I had early on. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna write this down, and then eventually you kind of start rationalizing it or explaining it away, even though it was like this monumental, and kind of like, well, what if it was a plane? What if it was just a star? What if it was a satellite? Those type of things. And even like writing down all the detail and having this awesome experience. So I think that's where the synchronicities and stuff come in, because you can't explain that stuff. Like what you're thinking, what you're saying is coming out of the television, or you think a thought and somebody says it. So many different ways that synchronicities happen in people's lives. And so I think it is the confirmation, or you are on the right path. I always see it as breadcrumbs, because like a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, the information coming through isn't the most profound. When a synchronicity happens, you know, I think early on I would listen to David Wilcock, and he would say, pay attention to the information. Well, some of the information, it's just like, it's not profound, but it's just like that knowing that, hey, I'm watching you, I'm with you, we got this type deal. You're on the right path, you know?
Totally. I love that. It really is that knowing energy that just keeps you, propels you forward, keeps you in that certain state and frequency, so that when that next profound thing happens, like you're ready and available to receive it. And I really liked the two things that you were saying about, one, that you documented. I think that that's like a really important thing, because then, one, you can see, I think the mind is like, well, nothing's happening to me, or like, I'm not having any dreams or encounters. And it's like, but if you write everything down, you know, like over the years, you're like, holy crap, like this is insane, you know? So I think that's so important. And then it is so strange how these crazy, like life-changing experiences can be questioned. You know, like I had that too, where I'm like, that can't be questioned, but like, how am I, like, did I really levitate through the tent? And it's like, when I did that, I wrote it down, and then I texted my partner and was like, I levitated through the tent. Like, I want to document that this was true, so that when I question it later, like, I don't, you know, I have that validation. So I really, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because it doesn't even matter how profound it was. Like with time and with, you know, I think for me it was a good thing though, because like I'm wanting to prove myself wrong. You know what I'm saying? I want to make sure this is legit, because I've been out there after having a couple encounters and been out there stargazing, and I see a plane headed my way, and it's so bright, and it's like, here's another one, and it flies over, and it's just an airplane. And then I've been out there with friends who are freaking out because the airplane's coming. I'm like, nope, don't get excited just yet. Let's make sure before you start celebrating. Let's make sure that we know what this is, or whatever the case is. So about documenting it and actually writing it down. And for me, my music as well. Like I'm able to look back. Like I started writing this type of music back in like late 2011, 2012. And then some years separated from that, you know, maybe 2014, I'm like, I don't even feel like I wrote that. It seems like somebody else. So it's almost like a time capsule as well. When you go back and read the articles that you wrote or the material you put out, and try to get in that same headspace. And hopefully it's a place that you're coming from, a place of where you're going to be learning, definitely, but a place of where you still are on that vibe, or you want to get back to that. Because I've been there where synchronicities were happening every day, and then I get to a place where I'm depressed and I haven't tapped into the divine realms at all. I haven't had anything awesome happening. I'm just in my day-to-day life, and my 9 to 5 is wearing me down. And you're like, man, what happened? And I can go back and read that stuff, or listen to the music, and I'm like, man, there's greatness inside of me. Like, there's more to come. Let me tap back into it, because that's not another person. That was me. And to kind of almost use the music in the writings and things as a time machine, and kind of time travel back to those places, you know?
I love that. Because it really does. I think that we were kind of like taught that like everything was going to happen on December 21st. And then right after that, like we'd all ascend, like, and it's just like, we're good, you know? And it's a long-term thing, like this transition. And I think that's something that's maybe a little bit more challenging for our generation and the younger generations. 'Cause we're like instant gratification culture. And it's like, okay, slow and steady, you know? And it's like these things come in waves, and to remember, like you said, like have some time capsule that you document in your specific way that then carries you on those droughts, you know, that waters that like synchronicity plant, like during the drought to get you to the next one.
Yep. Oh yeah. You know what though? And like, I always relate everything back to the scriptures, because I come out of the Christian evangelical background. And so my mind always goes back there. And that's what they would do. They would like have a victory in the Old Testament, and then they would build a monument. So when they came back to that place, they saw that monument, and he's like, you know what? When all my enemies were coming against me, I reached down and I defeated my foes. And that statue, that pile of rocks there, reminds me of my last battle that I won, that I fought. And then it's the same thing with us, to be reminded. And even with like trinkets and necklaces and things like that they would wear, amulets and stuff, it was a reminder. Like they would write the scriptures down and wear them around their neck, so that every time they looked at it, it reminded them. You know, I think us with tattoos and things, we look at tattoos or sacred geometry and things like this around us, it reminds us. Maybe a Catholic or a Christian would have a cross of Jesus, right? And when they're feeling low, they're feeling defeated, they look at the cross and it reminds them of their victory or where their hope is at and stuff like that. So that's awesome about writing something down, creating something that reminds you of where you were at, what headspace you were in, almost creating an altar no matter where you are, in the presence of your enemies type deal, you know?
I love that. That's such a good point. And like, if we think about even just like the most ancient cultures, like they documented, right, on cave walls. They're like, okay, let's document the changing, whatever it is, catastrophe, the ET connection,
alien contact,
whatever thing's happening. Like they documented it for themselves, and they documented it for us. And I think like what you're doing here with the podcast and everything, and what I'm doing, it's like we're documenting. It's digital documentation. I mean, we can go paint on a cave wall. I mean, that would be cool.
Yep. And that's one thing too, because like I don't like to when I do my podcast episodes, I don't like to number them. Like the majority of people in podcasting, they'll start off and like, this is episode 1, this is episode 10, whatever, and keep going. We're at like 80 something right now. And so I don't want to number them, because I feel like people who are newcomers will see the number. Like if I'm going to listen to a podcast and you have 700 podcasts, I don't want to go listen to number 25. Like I want to hear like what's going on in your life now, current events. I don't want to hear about like news from 6 years ago or whatever the case is, and talk about what was in the media